I was trapped in a restroom, screaming and banging the door, but no one helped. My boss, Mr. Harris, had locked me inside with him. He pushed me against the cold wall, covering my mouth with his hand. I couldn't breathe. I was shaking. My knees went weak. The worst part? I could hear footsteps outside, then laughter. People were watching. They were watching through the tiny window high on the wall. Some even pulled out their phones. No one helped me. No one stopped him. I wanted to die. But I didn't. I lived. And later, I made sure every one of them paid for what they did to me. Every single one of them. Let me take you back to where it all started. My name is Mary Benson, but everyone just calls me Grandma Mary now. I'm 82 years old and live in Alabama. I wasn't always old and wrinkly like this. I used to be strong, beautiful, full of fire and laughter. I had a job I loved at a small publishing company downtown. Back then, I thought my life was just beginning. I was only 24. I had dreams, big dreams, of becoming a writer, maybe even starting my own magazine one day. That's when I met Mr. Harris. He was the boss of the company, tall, clean-cut, and always dressed like he was going to church. Everybody respected him. Some feared him. He walked into a room, and you could hear a pin drop. I thought he was just strict. I never knew what kind of monster he really was. On my first day, he smiled at me. I remember thinking he had the kind of smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. Something about him made my stomach turn, but I ignored it. I needed that job. My mom was sick and my little brother was still in school. I had to keep the lights on and food on the table. At first, everything seemed normal. I typed letters, answered calls, organized files. The other workers were nice, especially Lisa and Brian. Lisa was like a sister, always making me laugh, and Brian was sweet on me, I could tell. But he was shy. 2 weeks in, Mr. Harris called me to his office. "You've been doing good work, Mary," he said, leaning back in his chair. "Real good." "Thank you, sir," I replied. "I have high hopes for you," he said. "Maybe even something more personal." I didn't understand what he meant. I smiled politely and left. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next day, he gave me a small box. Inside was a gold necklace. "A gift," he said, "from the company." I didn't take it. "I can't accept this," I told him. His eyes turned cold. "Don't insult me," he said. That's when I knew I was in trouble. I started staying away from him. I stopped going to his office unless someone else was around. But he noticed. Oh, he noticed. Then one evening, everything changed. We were working late. There had been a big printing mistake in the magazine, and everyone had to stay to fix it. Around 7 p.m., most people started leaving. Lisa left. Brian left. Soon, it was just me and Mr. Harris and a few others. I went to the restroom to freshen up. That's when he followed me. I didn't hear him come in until it was too late. He locked the door behind him. I screamed, but no one came. I banged the door, but it wouldn't open. He dragged me toward the corner stall and whispered things that made my skin crawl. "Stop fighting," he said. "No one's going to help you." And he was right, because when I looked up, I saw them. 3 of my coworkers, standing at the restroom window, watching like it was a movie. Like I was nothing but a show to them. One of them even laughed. I screamed louder. I kicked. I bit his hand. I scratched his face. He hit me. I hit the floor. And still, they watched. Hours passed. It felt like a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. At some point, I passed out. When I came to, I was alone on the restroom floor. My clothes torn. My body aching. My heart broken. I went home and cried for 3 days straight. I didn't tell anyone. Not even my mama. I was ashamed. Afraid. I thought no one would believe me. And maybe they wouldn't. But I wasn't going to stay silent forever. Something in me broke that day, but something else was born too. Something fierce. I wasn't just going to survive this. I was going to fight back. And I started with the one person I thought I could trust, Brian. Sweet, quiet Brian, who had seen it all and said nothing. The next time I saw him, I did something that shocked even myself. I walked straight up to him in front of the whole office and slapped him so hard the room went silent. He looked at me, stunned. Then everyone looked at him. They didn't know what had happened. But I was ready to tell them. I was ready to burn it all down. And that's when Mr. Harris walked in, with a black eye and a warning. "Say one more word," he said quietly, "and I'll destroy you." I smiled. "Too late," I whispered, because I had already made my first call to the police. And I had a plan. But just when I thought things couldn't get worse, something even more terrifying happened. Mr. Harris showed up at my house that night. And he wasn't alone. I looked through the crack in my curtain and nearly dropped the phone from my hand. Mr. Harris was standing outside my house, staring straight at my front door. He wasn't alone. Two men were with him. One I recognized as the company's head of security, the other I'd never seen before. Big man. Cold eyes. They didn't come to talk. They came to scare me. It was almost midnight. I whispered into the phone, "They're here. Right outside my house." The officer on the line told me to stay calm and stay hidden. He promised someone would be on their way. But my heart was pounding too loud to hear anything else. I backed away from the window, clutching my robe around me like it could protect me from what I'd seen. Then came the knock. Boom, boom, boom. Heavy, slow. Like it wasn't just a knock, it was a warning. "Mary," Mr. Harris called, his voice smooth and dark like oil. "Come out and talk to me. I just want to make sure we understand each other." I didn't answer. I didn't move. "Mary," he said again, this time softer. "You don't want to make a mistake. You've got a sick mother, don't you? And a little brother in school?" I froze. He knew. He knew everything. "You come outside, and we'll settle this like adults. You don't, and I'll make sure you lose everything." I backed further into the hallway, dragging my mama's old baseball bat from under the table. My hands were shaking. I was no fighter, but I'd be damned if I went down easy. That's when the police sirens screamed from the distance. Lights flashed. Tires screeched. In seconds, the men were gone, running down the street like rats. I collapsed to the floor and cried until I couldn't breathe. The next day, I didn't go to work. Lisa came over. Her face was pale, her voice shaking. "Mary," she whispered, "what did you do?" "Everyone's talking. Mr. Harris says you made the whole thing up." "I didn't make anything up," I said. Lisa didn't say anything for a long time. Then she whispered, "I saw him go into that restroom with you. I heard you scream." I grabbed her hand. "Then help me. Please." She looked away. I'm scared." "Me too," I said. "But I won't stop until the truth is out." For the next week, I didn't leave the house. Reporters showed up. Rumors spread. Some people said I was lying. Others said I was just looking for attention. But I didn't care. I had already started building my case. I sent my torn clothes to the police. I gave them my medical report. I named the coworkers who stood and watched, Brian, Lisa, and the others. I gave every detail, no matter how much it hurt. One evening, just as I was about to go to bed, someone knocked on my door again. I jumped, but it was Brian. His eyes were red. His voice cracked. "I'm sorry," he said. "I should have done something. I should have helped you." I said nothing. He handed me a flash drive. I recorded it. The whole thing. I don't know why I did it. I was scared. But you need this. My fingers trembled as I took it from him. "Why now?" I asked. "Because I had nightmares every night since it happened," he whispered. "I can't live with myself." I closed the door and locked it. That night, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The video played in silence. Blurry, shaky, but clear enough. You could see me. You could see Mr. Harris. You could hear my voice screaming. You could hear him telling me to be quiet. And worst of all, you could see the shadows outside the restroom window, watching. I cried. Then I copied the video. And I sent it to every local news station, blog, and police officer I could find. The next day, the storm hit. It was like the world woke up. My story was everywhere. Young woman assaulted at workplace. Video shows abuse, company denies. Justice for Mary. People started protesting outside the office. Police came and took Mr. Harris in for questioning. His cold smile was gone now. But not everyone was happy. That evening, Lisa came running into my house, her face soaked with tears. "They're coming for you," she said. "The board, the investors. They want this buried. They don't care what he did. They care about their name, their money.
Især det her.
They want to make you disappear." I swallowed hard. Let them try. Because I wasn't going anywhere. But just as I stood to close the door behind her, we heard glass shatter. Someone had thrown a brick through my window. Wrapped in the cloth tied around it was a note. "You should have kept your mouth shut." And that was only the beginning. I picked up the brick with shaking hands. The note tied around it was soaked in blood-red ink, and it smelled like kerosene. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might leap out of my chest. I looked at Lisa. Her face was pale. She was backing away slowly. "I shouldn't have come," she whispered. "I'm sorry." She turned and ran out of the house before I could stop her. I closed all the windows, locked every door, turned off the lights, and sat in the dark corner of my living room with that note in my hand. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound felt like danger. Every shadow felt like a threat. I didn't know who was out there, but I knew one thing. They wanted to scare me into silence. But I wasn't a child anymore. I had been scared before. I had been hurt. I had been broken. But I was still breathing, and that meant I could fight. The next morning, I walked into the police station with the brick, the note, and the flash drive in my purse. The officer on duty raised his eyebrows when he saw me. "Back again, Miss Benson?" "Yes," I said firmly. "And I won't stop coming back until something is done." They took me to a room and asked me to tell the whole story again. I did. Every word, every scream, every person who stood there and watched. I told them about the late-night visit, the threats, the broken window, the blood-colored warning. The detective leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "This is serious," he said. "Too serious to ignore." "But," I asked, knowing that tone. "But Mr. Harris has powerful friends," he said. "He's claiming you lured him, that it was consensual, that you're a bitter ex-lover seeking revenge. And since he's out on bail, he can still pull strings." My blood boiled. "He's lying." The detective nodded. "I believe you. But we need more. We need others to speak up." I thought about Lisa, about Brian, about the others who stood in silence while I was screaming. I had to get them to talk. I went to Lisa's apartment that night. She didn't want to let me in at first. But I stood in the hallway and banged the door until she opened. "I can't help you," she said. "They already threatened me. I got a letter, too." "You saw what happened to me," I said. "You heard me. How can you live with yourself?" "I can't," she said, tears rolling down her cheeks. "But I'm scared, Mary." "So was I said. But I still fought. I need you. Please." She looked down. "I'll think about it." It wasn't much, but it was a start. I went home, exhausted. My body was aching. My soul even more. I sat on my porch, staring into the night, wondering what my life had become. Just weeks ago, I was a young woman with dreams and a steady job. Now I was hiding in shadows, waiting for another brick, another threat, another night of terror. That's when a car pulled up. A black one. No license plate. It parked across the street. No one got out. I stood up, heart racing. It just sat there. I stepped inside and locked the door. I peeked through the curtains, my breath fogging the glass. Still, no one moved. Then the window of the car slowly rolled down. I couldn't see a face, just the glow of a cigarette tip. It watched me, watched my house. Minutes passed. Then the car slowly drove away. I was shaking so bad. I dropped the phone trying to call the police. The next day, I didn't wait for anyone. I marched back to the office. I stormed in through the front door, and every head turned. They didn't expect to see me again. They thought I would disappear. They thought I would crawl under a rock and vanish. But I came in like thunder. Mr. Harris wasn't there. Good. I went straight to the floor where it all happened, the floor where I was trapped in the restroom, screaming. I stood in front of the employees and raised my voice. You all saw what he did to me. You watched it happen. And you did nothing. Silence.
You laughed.
You turned away. Some of you recorded it. A few looked down. Some left the room. One woman started crying. Then Brian stood up. She's telling the truth, he said. I saw it too. A man in a suit rushed toward him, grabbing his arm. Not another word, he hissed. Brian shook him off. I'm not lying for anyone anymore. Then Lisa stepped forward. Her voice was shaking. He threatened us. All of us. I looked around. Eyes were widening. Some whispered. The truth was spilling. And just as it seemed people were ready to finally listen, the fire alarm went off. Then screams. Then someone shouted, Fire! The restroom's on fire. Panic broke out. People ran for the exits. Smoke started pouring from a hallway. I grabbed Lisa's hand. We ran toward the stairs as the flames rose higher. My chest burned. I couldn't breathe. The building shook from the inside out. It felt like a warning, like they were trying to erase everything. But I had made copies of the flash drive. And I wasn't running anymore. Just as we reached the bottom steps, a man stepped out of the smoke with a fire extinguisher and blocked our path. It was Mr. Harris. His face was twisted in rage. His eyes burned brighter than the flames behind him. You just don't know when to quit, he growled. And in that moment, with fire all around us and smoke choking the air, I realized this wasn't just about survival anymore. It was war. Mr. Harris stood at the bottom of the stairs like a devil guarding the gates of hell. Smoke curled behind him. His suit was half-burned. Soot stained his face. But his eyes, those cold, sharp eyes, were clear as day. And locked on me. Lisa screamed and tried to run back up, but the flames were already licking the railings above. I pulled her behind me. Get out of the way, I shouted. He didn't move. Instead, he raised the fire extinguisher and slammed it against the wall beside him, letting the white mist shoot wildly into the air. You want justice? He shouted over the chaos. You want the truth? You can die with it. I grabbed the emergency door handle, but it was jammed. Lisa was coughing hard behind me, eyes wide with terror. The heat was rising. The air was thick. I didn't want this, he growled. You brought this on yourself. You could have walked away. I looked him dead in the eye. I've walked away my whole life. Not anymore. Then, I did the one thing I never thought I'd do. I charged him. He didn't expect it. I slammed my shoulder into his chest, knocking him off balance. The fire extinguisher clattered to the ground. I kicked it away. He grabbed my arm, but I twisted free and kneed him in the stomach. He doubled over with a grunt. Lisa screamed again, pointing behind me. The fire! It had reached the stairwell. We had seconds. I yanked the heavy office sign off the wall and bashed it into the emergency door handle. The metal cracked. I hit it again harder. One more time. Finally, the lock popped loose. Go! I screamed at Lisa. She ran out first, coughing and gasping. I turned to run after her and saw Mr. Harris on his knees, reaching for my ankle. I kicked him hard. Then I ran. Outside, people were already gathering. Sirens howled in the distance. Fire trucks came tearing down the street. Water sprayed the burning building as black smoke filled the sky. Lisa collapsed on the curb, crying and hugging her knees. I sat beside her, shaking, coughing, watching the flames swallow the place where my nightmare began. I should have felt relieved, but I didn't, because Mr. Harris had escaped. He slipped out through another exit while the building burned. I knew it, deep in my gut, and I knew he wasn't finished with me. That night, I stayed at Lisa's apartment. I was too afraid to go home. We didn't talk much. She made tea, but neither of us drank it. We just sat there, staring at the front door like it might burst open any second. I don't think I can do this anymore, she whispered. Yes, you can, I said. We're too close. She looked at me with red-rimmed eyes. I was pregnant, Mary. That's why I didn't say anything. I was scared he'd hurt me or my baby. My heart dropped.
I didn't know what to say.
I lost it, she continued. The stress. The fear. I lost my baby. Tears spilled down her cheeks. That moment broke me. I reached out and held her hand. Then we fight for her. For the truth. For all the women he's hurt. She nodded slowly. The next morning I got a call. The police said the fire was arson. No surprise there. Someone had poured gasoline in the back hallway. But they wouldn't say who. There was no video footage. Cameras were malfunctioning. Convenient. Mr. Harris had vanished. His office was cleared out. No forwarding address. No phone. Nothing. But then, 2 days later, I got an email. You think this is over? Attached was a picture of my little brother at his school. My knees buckled. I dropped the phone. Lisa grabbed it and read the message. He's watching your family now, she whispered. I felt rage boil in my chest like fire. All the fear I had felt before. It burned away into something else. I had tried to do things the right way. I had told the truth. I had gone to the police. I had stayed silent when I wanted to scream. Not anymore. That night I met with Brian again. He gave me names. People inside the company who helped Mr. Harris cover up other stories. Victims who never came forward. One of them, Rachel, had moved to another state after she resigned suddenly. I found her on Facebook, sent her a message. Then another. Then another. No response. Then after 4 days, she replied, I know what he did. I have proof. But if I speak, he'll ruin me. I typed slowly. He already ruined me. Please. We need you. She agreed to meet. We planned to talk that Friday at a small diner just outside town. But when I arrived, Rachel wasn't there. Instead, taped to the table where I was supposed to meet her was a single photo. It was Rachel, in a hospital bed, her face bruised, her arm in a cast. On the back, someone had written in red marker, last warning. And suddenly, I knew this wasn't just about my story anymore. This man wasn't going to stop. And unless I stopped him first, someone else was going to die. I stared at Rachel's photo, my fingers going numb. Her face was barely recognizable. Swollen lips, black eyes, blood still fresh on her cheek. The photo shook in my trembling hands, but not from fear.
Not this time.
I was angry, boiling, burning. No more hiding. No more crying. No more waiting for help that would never come. I walked out of that diner with fire in my chest and war in my heart. Lisa was waiting for me in the car. When she saw the photo, she covered her mouth. Oh my God, he did this. He sent it to me, I said. Like a souvenir. Like a warning. She looked at me. What are we going to do now? I stared out the window. We're going to hunt him down. We spent the next 3 days digging. Brian helped us from the inside, quietly. He was still working at the company, acting like everything was normal. He gave us access to Mr. Harris's old emails, contact lists, phone logs. The company hadn't wiped everything yet. They assumed we were too scared to push further. Big mistake. Brian forwarded me an encrypted folder Mr. Harris had hidden in his work computer under the name HR Records. Inside were files of complaints, dozens of them. Women's names. Reports of harassment. All marked unsubstantiated and closed without follow-up. One file had my name on it, dated a day before I even filed anything. He had already written my complaint for me and twisted it to make it seem like I was the aggressor. Signed by fake witnesses. I could hardly breathe when I read it. He was always 10 steps ahead. Always preparing the lie before the truth even got a chance to speak. But not this time. Buried in those files, Brian found an address. It wasn't listed as his. It was under another name. But it was close. A small house near the edge of town, registered to a Jonas Edwards. Fake name, obviously. But the phone number? It matched Mr. Harris's burner. I knew we'd found him. Call the police, Lisa said. I shook my head. They'll warn him again. We need proof. So, that night, we drove to the address. It was a quiet street.
Neustrelitz.
Just one-story homes with worn porches and sleeping dogs. We parked down the block, hiding behind a truck with no license plate. I had a camera. Lisa had her phone. Brian stayed back in case something went wrong. We crept through the neighbor's yard. My legs felt like lead. My breath was shallow. But I was steady, focused. From behind a tree, I saw him, through a dusty window. Mr. Harris.
Alive.
Comfortable. Drinking coffee in a t-shirt and jeans. Like he hadn't set a building on fire. Like he hadn't destroyed people's lives. Like he hadn't destroyed mine. I pressed record. He paced around the small living room, talking on the phone. I couldn't hear everything, but I caught a few chilling words through the glass. Yeah, she's still alive. No, Rachel didn't say anything. If they keep pushing, we make another example.
Lisa gasped softly besideme.
I kept filming. Every word. Every sentence. My hands were ice cold, but I didn't stop. Then suddenly he turned toward the window. I ducked. Did he see us? We waited in silence. 10 seconds. 30. A minute. Then I peeked again. He was gone. Lights flicked off. Let's go, I whispered. But as we turned to leave, a flashlight hit us from behind. Going somewhere? A deep voice asked. We froze. It wasn't Mr. Harris. It was the man from before, the big one with cold eyes. The one who stood beside Mr. Harris outside my house. He grabbed Lisa's arm. I screamed and swung the camera bag at his head. He stumbled. Lisa broke free and we ran. He chased us, boots pounding the grass. I didn't look back. I couldn't. We cut through the neighbor's yard and sprinted for the car. Lisa fumbled with the keys. Hurry, I shouted. Just as he reached us, Lisa slammed the door shut and hit the gas. The car flew down the road. I looked back through the rear window. He was still standing there, watching, breathing heavy, and smiling. We made it to the police station again. This time, we had everything. The video, the audio, the files, the address. They had no choice but to act. Within hours, officers surrounded the small house and broke in. But again, he was gone. The place was empty. He had escaped. Again. But he left something behind. In the living room, police found a whiteboard. Names were written on it.
Mary. Lisa.
Brian. Rachel. And beneath it, a countdown. 7 days left. 7 days until what? What was he planning? We didn't know. But whatever it was coming fast. And we had no choice but to face it. 7 days. That's what the whiteboard said. 7 days left. Left for what? I stared at that photo the police took of the board, my name in bold, black letters. Lisa's. Brian's. Rachel's. All of us like targets, like trophies. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on Lisa's floor with the lights off, staring at the shadows on the walls. Every creak sounded like footsteps. Every engine outside made me flinch. The man was out there somewhere planning something, and he had just 6 days left. Lisa curled up on the couch, shaking. Why us? She whispered. Because we spoke up, I said. Because we didn't die quiet. The next morning, Brian sent another message. He'd found something else, a folder buried on the company's old server. It was labeled Retired Personnel Files. Inside were contracts, agreements, payouts. Hush money. Some were for women I'd never heard of, others for people who had simply vanished from the company without notice. But one file stood out. Rachel's. A document signed 2 months before her attack. It was a settlement agreement. She'd agreed not to speak, in exchange for $50,000. But here's the part that chilled me. Her signature was forged. Rachel never agreed to stay silent. Mr. Harris forged the documents and kept her under control using threats. Probably the same way he scared others into disappearing. We needed to find her again. So Lisa and I drove 2 hours to the hospital Rachel had been admitted to under the name we found in the files, Rebecca H. At first, the nurses refused to talk to us. We don't share patient information, they said. But when I showed the bruised photo of Rachel and told them what happened, they went quiet. One nurse whispered, "She checked out last night," against medical advice. Where did she go? The nurse hesitated. She said she had to disappear, that someone was after her. We left with nothing but dread in our stomachs. Rachel was gone again, and the man hunting her was still moving freely. 5 days left. We returned home exhausted. Lisa stayed up researching online while I laid on the floor, my heart too heavy to move. I couldn't eat. I couldn't breathe right. I was stuck in a fog of fear, guilt, and helplessness. Just before dawn, Lisa nudged me. "I found something," she said. It was a flyer. Annual Employees Gala, hosted by Harris Publishing. It was scheduled for the weekend at a downtown ballroom. "This is where he'll be," she said. "He always shows up to flaunt." I stared at it. A public event. Hundreds of people. He'd be out in the open. If we could get inside, if we could confront him there, maybe, just maybe, we could expose him in front of the very people who'd helped him hide. We started planning. Brian arranged passes for us. He used his ID to register us as guest speakers. Lisa borrowed her cousin's black dress. I found an old suit in the back of my closet. We rehearsed our lines, gathered our evidence, printed photos, copied audio. We weren't going to just talk that night. We were going to explode the truth across the room like a bomb. 2 days left. The morning before the gala, I visited my mom's grave. I stood there in silence for a long time, hands in my coat, breathing in the cold air. "I know you're gone, Mama," I whispered, "but I hope you can hear me." I told her everything. About the boss, the abuse, the fire, the threats, about how scared I was, how tired I felt, but also how determined I'd become. Then I said the words that made my throat close up. "If anything happens to me, take care of my baby brother." As I turned to leave, I noticed a flower, fresh, red rose, resting on the edge of the grave. But I didn't place it there. And neither did my brother. I looked around. No one. I picked it up and turned it over. Tied around the stem was a piece of paper. 1 day left. My knees nearly gave out. He had followed me to my mother's grave. He was watching me even there. When I got home, I couldn't even speak. I handed Lisa the note. She paled. "He's playing with us. He's not going to wait." We called Brian. We told him everything. We agreed to meet at the gala the next night, together. We'd go in. We'd finish it. No more running. That night, I hugged Lisa like it might be the last time. And then morning came. The day of the gala. We got dressed in silence. My hands trembled as I zipped up my jacket. I tucked the flash drive into my bra. Lisa hid the printed evidence in her purse. We got into the car. And just as I turned the key, the back seat door flew open. A strong arm reached forward, pulling Lisa out with a scream. A cloth pressed to her face. Another hand grabbed me from behind. I kicked. I bit. I screamed. Then darkness swallowed me whole. I woke up choking on the smell of bleach and metal. The floor beneath me was hard and cold, concrete. My hands were tied behind my back, wrists screaming in pain. My head pounded like someone had taken a hammer to it. For a moment, I couldn't see. Then I blinked through the blur and realized I was in a basement. A single light bulb swung overhead, casting long, crooked shadows across the floor. It flickered. Buzzed. The walls were bare concrete, stained and cracked. There were no windows. No doors in sight. Just darkness beyond the edges of that tiny cone of light. Then I heard it. Crying. It was Lisa. She was in the corner, her arms tied, her mouth gagged. Her mascara was smeared, her eyes bloodshot. I tried to call out, but my mouth was dry and swollen. My voice came out like a whisper. "Lisa." She looked at me, eyes wide, desperate. Then came the footsteps. Heavy, slow, echoing. A figure stepped into the light. Mr. Harris. Clean-shaven. Calm. Like he hadn't just kidnapped 2 women the day of a public gala. He wore a crisp suit and gloves, like this was just another board meeting. Well, well, he said, smirking. You two are very, very determined. I clenched my fists behind me. Where are we? He chuckled. Somewhere no one will find you. Don't bother screaming. He crouched in front of me, his eyes level with mine. I gave you every chance to walk away, Mary. Every chance to shut your mouth and disappear quietly. But no, you had to be a hero. I spat in his face. He wiped it slowly with his glove and smiled. I admire the fire, he said. But fire can't save you now. He turned to Lisa, who flinched. And you, he said. You broke my heart. I trusted you. I promoted you. Lisa whimpered through her gag. He stood and walked in slow circles around us. You ruined my career, my company, my reputation. But guess what?
He stopped.
No one will believe your little story now. Because after tonight, there will be no Mary Benson.
No, Lisa.
Just a missing persons report and 2 burned-out girls who messed with the wrong man. I struggled against the rope. It cut into my skin. Blood started to trickle down my wrists. You'll never get away with this, I hissed. Oh, he said, leaning in close again. I already have. Then suddenly there was a sound. A knock. Upstairs. Mr. Harris froze. Another knock. Then a voice. Police. Open the door. He turned pale. Lisa and I locked eyes.
Hope.
Mr. Harris ran into the shadows. A minute later, we heard the door creak open upstairs. Then boom, a loud thud, a crash, shouting,
Boots stomping.
gun drawn. Clear the house, an officer's voice shouted. Then flashlights. The basement door burst open, and 2 SWAT officers stormed in. They aimed their rifles into the room, saw us, and lowered their weapons. Hands where we can see them, one barked. Then, realizing we were tied, they rushed over and cut the ropes. Lisa collapsed into the officer's arms, sobbing. I couldn't even move. I just sat there, shaking, like I had no bones left in my body. Where is he? I gasped. The officer turned to his radio. Suspect is fled. Repeat, suspect is on foot. They missed him. Again. But we were alive. They rushed us into the back of an ambulance. Brian was already there, waiting, his eyes red from crying. I followed the GPS tracker I secretly installed in Lisa's purse, he said, voice trembling. When you 2 didn't show up, I knew something was wrong. I couldn't even speak. I just reached out and grabbed his hand. We were safe.
For now.
But Mr. Harris was still out there. Still breathing. Still plotting. And when we thought this nightmare had finally ended, the paramedic handed me a small envelope. Found this tucked in your coat pocket, she said. I opened it slowly. Inside was a note. You might have escaped my hands, but not my wrath. This isn't over.
Ash.
And tucked beside it was a photo of my brother, tied to a chair, blindfolded,
Crying.
The world spun. My heart shattered all over again. He had my brother, and this time, he wanted to finish what he started. I screamed so loud in that ambulance that even the paramedics panicked. Brian grabbed the photo from my shaking hands. Is this real? Is that Jason? I couldn't speak. I just nodded, my chest tight, tears rolling down like rain. That photo, it wasn't old. It wasn't fake. The background was a dirty garage, like the kind where people fix stolen cars. My baby brother, Jason, his nose was bleeding, his shirt torn. He looked like a child again, helpless and scared. Mr. Harris had him. This nightmare wasn't over. The police tried to calm me down, promising they'd track the location, launch a full investigation, find Jason immediately. But I had no faith in promises anymore. Not from men in uniforms. Not after all that had happened. I'd learned one thing in this mess. If I wanted something done, I had to do it myself. I asked the officer to pull over. He said I was in no condition to walk. I looked him in the eyes. He has my brother. You either help me or I help myself. Brian stood beside me. We'll go together. The officer hesitated, then sighed and made a call. Soon, another squad car pulled up. They wanted to take us to the station, file a full report, wait for approval. But every minute they delayed, Jason was in danger. I knew Mr. Harris. He didn't bluff. That photo was a promise, one that came with a ticking clock. Lisa, bruised and barely able to stand, clutched my arm. I'm going with you.
Lisa. No. I owe you.
I owe him. We end this, or we never sleep again. So we left. Brian drove us in his truck, a battered old pickup with a noisy engine and a missing side mirror. We didn't know where to go. But then Lisa remembered something, a clue from one of Harris's past conversations. He once joked that his father had a farm outside of town, a place he said he could disappear into if things ever went south. We headed there, miles outside the city. The roads narrowed. Fields stretched endlessly on either side. Dead trees. Broken fences. No signs of life. Then we saw it. An old barn. Crumbling, silent, forgotten by time. Brian killed the engine. We sat in silence for a moment. The wind howled through the cracks in the truck windows. This is it, Lisa whispered. I stepped out, my legs trembling. Not from fear, no. From fury. Every scar on my body burned. Every memory of the restroom, the humiliation, the betrayal, they all boiled inside me. I wasn't going to beg anymore. I was going to fight back. We crept toward the barn. No one in sight. The front doors were half open. A dim light flickered from inside. Lisa had a small pepper spray. Brian brought a tire iron. I had nothing but my pain, my anger, and a voice that refused to be silenced. We stepped inside. The barn smelled like oil and damp wood. Tools lined the walls. In the center, under a hanging light, was a chair. Jason sat in it.
Tied.
Blindfolded. Muffled sobs came from behind his gag. I ran to him. Jason. It's me, Mary. I'm here. His body jolted. He tried to speak, to move. I ripped the blindfold off, and he looked at me with the eyes of a broken child. Suddenly,
bang!
The barn doors slammed shut. A lock clicked. Hello again. Mr. Harris stepped from the shadows. His suit was gone. He wore overalls now, gloves stained with grease. His face was calm, too calm. You just don't give up, do you? Lisa raised the pepper spray. Let him go. He laughed. You know what I hate about you women? He said, circling us like a vulture. You think crying makes you powerful, that screaming will save you. No, I said, stepping in front of Jason, my voice steady. But justice will. Oh, Mary, he smiled. Justice isn't coming. Out here, it's just you and me. He reached for something behind a beam and pulled out a gun. Lisa screamed. Brian stepped forward, but Harris fired a warning shot into the floor. The bullet echoed through the barn, dust falling from the ceiling. Nobody moved. We froze. Then slowly he walked toward me, gun raised. You took everything from me, he hissed. My company, my future. You humiliated me in front of the world. You did that to yourself, I said. His hand trembled. And then suddenly Jason spoke. Mary, behind you. Before I could react, Harris lunged, slamming into me. I hit the ground hard, pain shooting through my ribs. The gun skidded across the floor. Brian tackled him. The two men crashed into the walls, fists flying, grunts filling the air. Lisa untied Jason as fast as she could, tears pouring down her face. Come on, baby. We're going to be okay. I crawled toward the gun. But Harris saw me. He shoved Brian off and dove at me. We both grabbed it at the same time. His hand on the trigger. Mine on the barrel. We struggled. Our faces inches apart, breaths heavy. You should have died in that restroom, he growled. And you should have stayed in hell, I spat. Then the gun went off. A loud bang. Silence. My ears rang. I blinked and looked down.
Blood.
But not mine. Mr. Harris stared at me, wide-eyed, then collapsed to the ground. Brian stood behind him, holding a pitchfork. He'd stabbed him clean through the back. The gun fell from Harris's hand as he hit the floor, unmoving. I couldn't breathe. Was it over? Was he really gone? Jason crawled into my arms, sobbing. I thought I'd never see you again. I held him tight. Lisa cried openly, burying her face in Brian's chest. But just as I started to believe the nightmare was over, the sound of sirens filled the distance. And then I saw headlights. Not police. Not rescue. Black cars. Tinted windows. 3 of them. Pulling into the field. I stood slowly. New fear rising. Who are they? Brian asked. I narrowed my eyes. One of the car doors opened. A tall man in a white suit stepped out. He didn't look like a cop. Didn't look like a friend. He looked at Harris's body. Then at me. And he smiled. Well, looks like you just made things worse, Mary. The man in the white suit walked slowly toward me, his hands behind his back like he was taking a stroll in the park. His smile was too calm, too sharp. Something about him sent chills crawling down my spine. Jason clung to my arm, still weak, and I gently pushed him behind me. 3 other men stepped out from the cars behind him, all dressed in black, all armed. Lisa's face went pale. Who was that? Brian tightened his grip on the pitchfork still stained with Harris's blood. Something tells me he's not here to congratulate us. The man stopped a few feet from the barn and looked down at Mr. Harris's body, lying lifeless on the floor. You just couldn't follow orders, could you, Harris? He muttered. Then he looked at me again. You've made a big mess, Mary. Who are you?
I asked.
He tilted his head. You can call me Mr. Sloan. I was Mr. Harris's investor.
Investor?
You mean partner? Brian asked.
No, Sloan replied.
I gave him money. He gave me results. And when people like your friend here get in the way, things slow down. I clenched my fists. So you knew everything he did? You watched him hurt people, women, and said nothing. He shrugged. I didn't watch. I just knew what I needed to know. Harris had methods. I had patience. I stepped forward, anger building. He locked me in that restroom. He made people come in and watch me suffer, like I was some kind of show. And you funded it. Sloan smiled coldly. He said you were strong. Now I see what he meant. Brian stepped beside me. You're not walking out of here. Sloan raised one hand. His men raised their weapons. Jason whimpered behind me. Lisa pulled him close. This wasn't just about Harris anymore. This was bigger. Sloan wasn't just another rich man. He was the one behind the scenes. The puppet master. Harris had been evil. But this man was calculated. Let us go, I said, my voice low but firm. You got your money. You got your fun. But it ends tonight. He took another step closer. You killed my asset. That means you owe me. I don't owe you anything. I disagree, Sloan said, looking around. You think the cops will protect you? I own half the department. Harris may have been sloppy, but I have connections.
Power.
People like you, survivors, don't get to win. That's not how the world works. He reached into his coat. Brian raised the pitchfork again. But Sloan didn't pull a weapon.
He pulled out a contract.
You sign this, he said, holding it out to me. You take the blame. You go to prison for killing Harris. Your friends go free. Your brother stays alive. You protect them. Or, he looked back at his men. I make this messy. Lisa whispered, Don't do it, Mary. I stared at the paper, the pen dangling beside it. This was a trap. I was being cornered again, just like that restroom, but this time with the people I loved standing behind me. And I wasn't about to let that happen again. No, I said.
He blinked. No.
I stepped forward.
No.
I'm not signing anything. I'm not backing down. I'm not scared of you. He gave a small laugh. You should be. Then everything happened at once. A loud boom shook the ground, followed by flashing lights. Police cars.
Dozens of them.
They stormed the field like a flood. Helicopters roared overhead. Sloan froze. Brian grinned. Guess what? You don't own everyone. Lisa held up her phone. I sent the location and everything we recorded. Sloane's face twisted with rage. You think this will stop me? You think. But the police were already yelling. Drop your weapons. His men hesitated. More officers appeared from the trees, guns raised. They weren't local cops. These were federal.
FBI.
Sloane slowly raised his hands. We'll talk again, Mary, he hissed. You can't kill a shadow. The agents swarmed him and the others. One officer helped Jason into an ambulance. Lisa sobbed and hugged me tight. An agent in a vest walked over. Mary Thomas? I nodded. We've been investigating this ring for months. Your call blew the case wide open. My knees gave out. I sank to the ground, sobbing, this time not from pain, but from the weight of survival. It was over. Almost. Days later, after testifying, recovering, and helping Jason through the trauma, I stood outside the courthouse.
Reporters surrounded me.
Some called me a hero. Others called me a victim. But I wasn't either. I was a fighter. Lisa walked beside me, her arm in a sling. You okay? I don't know, I said honestly. But I will be. Brian met us at the car. FBI says they traced Sloane's network. More arrests coming. I nodded. Good. But just as we were about to leave, my phone buzzed. A message. No number. Just a text. The restroom was only the beginning. S. My fingers went cold. I stared into the sky. Sloane was right. Shadows don't die easily.
But neither do women like me.
I stared at the message on my phone for a long time, the words sinking into my chest like cold steel. The restroom was only the beginning. S. Even with Sloane behind bars, even after the news reports praised my bravery and the FBI assured me the case was closed, deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Lisa read the message over my shoulder. You think it's really him? I nodded slowly. It's him. Or someone working for him. Brian leaned against the car, frowning. But how? He's locked up. Powerful men don't stay caged for long, I whispered. A week passed. Then, too. Life slowly returned to what some people would call normal. But there was nothing normal about the way I jumped at every phone ring, or how Jason cried out in his sleep, or the way Lisa refused to leave the house after sunset. We were free, but we weren't healed. One morning, I was walking Jason to school when he stopped suddenly, staring across the street. Mommy, he whispered, that's the man who watched us in the restroom. My heart dropped. Across the street, a man in a black baseball cap stood near a newspaper stand. His face was partly hidden, but I could feel his eyes, watching us. Just like before. I grabbed Jason's hand and pulled him back, my heart thudding in my ears. Run, I whispered. We dashed down the block, not stopping until we were inside the school. I slammed the gate shut behind me and leaned against the wall, panting. They were still watching us. Still waiting. At home, I sat with Brian and Lisa and told them what Jason saw. Lisa was shaking. Brian went outside to check for signs of anyone following us. That evening, I went through the boxes of evidence the FBI had returned to me, photos, files, the USB drive with recordings from the barn. I replayed the footage of Harris and Sloane, listening for anything I might have missed. Then I heard it. Harris, in one of the clips, laughing as he talked to Sloane. Once this batch is done, the second phase begins. Bigger city. New girls. Cameras already set up in Detroit.
Detroit.
That was it. I knew what I had to do. I packed a small bag and met with Agent Miller, the FBI lead on our case. I showed him the footage and the message Sloane had sent me. He frowned. We thought the Detroit operation was just a rumor. But this proves it. I want to go, I said. He looked at me like I'd lost my mind. Mary, you nearly died. You should be resting. I don't want to rest. I want to finish this. You're not law enforcement. I'm something better, I said, my voice trembling with fire. I'm the proof. I'm the survivor. I know how they work. He finally agreed, under strict surveillance. I was going undercover. Lisa cried when I told her. Why go back into that nightmare?
Because they're still doing it, I said.
To other girls. To other women. And I can't sit back while it happens. Brian just nodded. We'll keep the home safe. You go finish it. 2 nights later, I was in Detroit. New name. New look. New mission. The safe house the FBI arranged was tucked inside a rough neighborhood. I walked the streets like bait, pretending to be lost, alone, scared. I could feel the eyes on me from dark alleys and tinted cars. It didn't take long. On the third night, a woman approached me, mid-30s, wearing a too-perfect smile. You need work, she asked gently. You look hungry. I nodded. Yes, ma'am. She handed me a card. Come to this place. Tell them Sierra sent you. It was a warehouse on the edge of the city, unmarked, surrounded by shipping containers. I showed the card to the man at the gate. He nodded and let me in. Inside, the room was lined with dressing mirrors and makeup tables. Cameras in every corner. Girls no older than 16 were brushing their hair and wiping tears. They'd been told to smile, to act. It was a trap just like before. A man stepped out of the shadows.
Tall. Bite.
Tattoos crawling up his neck. He looked at me with a cold grin. Welcome back, Mary. I froze. He knew.
How?
Before I could react, 2 guards grabbed me. I kicked, screamed, fought. They dragged me into a back room, a dark space with cold tile walls. A restroom. The smell hit me before the memories did.
No.
Not again. Not here. They threw me down and slammed the door. I scrambled up, banging on the walls. You won't break me. You won't. A voice crackled through a speaker. You thought Harris was the boss, the voice laughed. But he was just one piece. It was Sloan. He was never in prison. He faked everything. And now he was watching. Again. But this time, I wasn't the same scared woman. I was fire. From my boot, I pulled the blade the FBI had given me. And I started to fight.